I'm going to show you a few techniques that I use that you might find useful. And if you do find them useful, you're more than welcome to contact us and I can show you how to implement them into your own trading. So as I do with all my charts when I'm doing technical analysis, I look at the weekly chart to give me an overall perspective on how markets are behaving in the longer term. So I'm going to draw some support and resistance lines which will guide me and look for turning points or areas where the market will struggle, and see how I can use them for either target or stop losses. So let's start by the simplest way is drawing some support and resistance. I can see the market is really ranging over a long period of time between these 2 points here. Obviously we're in the middle of this, so we need much more analysis in figuring out where this recent up move has potential to go or potential to be pulling back from. So now let's go to the daily chart and start looking at where we had our entry point for our funded trader students and mentorship students, and when they took the trade, then it's about how to manage that trade, how to maximize the profits once you have the entry point. And for the purpose of this video, those of you who are familiar with our algo scanner and our strategy will know that what the strategy does, it finds very high probability entry points. So let me just show you the entry point that we received on the Euro GBP around, I think it was the 13th, 14th of May. And we're still in this trade. I'm sure some of you traders will know that once you're in a trade, when do you exit? When do you take your profit? When do you move your stop losses? All very critical in your success, because there's nothing worse than taking your trade out too early and leaving the rest of the profit on the table. Your job as a trader, particularly our students who are trading our funds, they want to maximize every single pip they can to increase their targets so they can get more and more capital as they move forward. So let's have a look. I've just overlaid the strategy and I'm going to show you where our entry point was. So we can see this green arrow here. It's in the blue zone. The scanner gave us all the indications that this was a very high probability setup. So purpose of trying to find out where this potential trade could take us, we need to do a bit more in-depth analysis. The strategy will get you in very, very nicely, very high probability, but you're going to have to use some other techniques to try to get the maximum out of this trade, as I said earlier. So let's just switch off the strategy and see if we can't use Fibonacci's support and resistance to give us some guidelines on where the potential turning points of this market are. So let's just look at the chart. I've left the highlighted area, so we had an entry point here. Let's look at the markets now and see what type of Fibonacci's have been useful, not only in the past but also potentially in the future. And those of you who know how to use, how we use our Fibonacci's, they're very, very subtly different from others that I've seen. I use not only the retracements, but I also use extensions. And you can see here, just to highlight where I pull these points. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I have other videos on how to use the Fibonacci tools much more effectively. And if anybody wants to know how to use them, please contact us. More than happy to guide you through the process. On the face of it, they can look quite complicated, but once you narrow down how to use these tools over and over and over again, they are so powerful in your trading toolbox. So I used the A and B, and markets turned exactly on the 27 or more or less, which coincided actually also with the weekly support. So we know this is a very, very strong support level. And not only did the retracement go to the 38, it hovered around there, it's now on its way to the 618. So that's another key turning point. Again, those of you who have watched my Fibonacci videos know that we pay a lot of attention to the 618. So we have some areas where we have taken our trade at this point here. Where do we exit? Now, some people can just use ratios like a 1-to-1 target, but obviously when you're trading a fund, you want to try to get, 2 to 1, 3 to 1, if possible. And all of them are acceptable, by the way, 1 to 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 1. But let's see how we can maximize this particular move. Let's do a bit of further analysis on this chart here. And we can see that and on today, as we look at the chart today, it's been rising and it's now struggling a little bit. It's stayed a little bit away from the 618, but that often is what happens, because above this 618 there will be other types of orders. And again, I'm not going to go into the minutiae of supply and demand and why it turns that point. I have other videos to do that. What we're focusing on is where is the potential target for the trade that we took based upon the ProFX strategy. So already nicely in profit. Moving stops is the trading stop is something that I'm not going to go into this video because there are different techniques for following the trade up. I'm more interested in where does this market have potential to go while I'm still in this market. So we can see the 618 is a definite resistance point, and one of the targets we could have set at 618, or a soft target, meaning watching how markets behave around the 618. Do they retrace and pull back, or do they plow through and continue on their journey up to the recent resistance lines here? So let me just draw that in as well so you can see that. So that's based on the daily. The top one is the weekly. And what I'm going to do also now is look to see if the market will retrace from this point here. And if it does retrace, what point can it retrace to? So I'm going to put another fib level here, which will give me some indications on if indeed it does retrace from this 618, which I kind of expected to do because it's not only at the 618, but it's also just hovering around the 89 round number. And again, one of the things we teach on our funded trader mentorships is how important these round numbers can be for identifying exit points. So we've reached this point. Is it going to continue plowing up, or is it going to struggle at this point here? So when we're in this trade, these are the decisions we have to make on a sort of daily basis. Is the market going to continue, or is it going to retrace? If it retraces, what action are we going to take? If it continues, how are we going to manage our trading stops?